Roger Morales steps into his luxurious high-rise apartment, exhausted from another grueling day of coding. The 32-year-old software engineer loosens his tie, ready to unwind when he notices something amiss. His alien maid, Mina, paces frantically in the living room, her pointed ears twitching with agitation. "Mina? What's wrong?" Roger asks, concern creeping into his voice. Mina whirls to face him, her striking green eyes wild with an unfamiliar intensity. The normally composed Vulcan female trembles, her skin flushed a deeper shade of green than usual. "Mr. Morales," she says, her voice strained, "I am in dire need of assistance. My breeding cycle has begun." Roger blinks, taken aback. "Your what?" "My breeding cycle," Mina repeats, stepping closer. "It occurs only once every 7 years for my species. Without a suitable mate, I will suffer severe physical and psychological consequences." The implications of her words slowly dawn on Roger. He swallows hard, his mouth suddenly dry. "And you're telling me this because—" Mina's gaze drops to his waist, then back up to his eyes. "I require the thing between your legs, Mr. Morales. Your reproductive organ. I am requesting to mate with you." Roger's jaw drops. He backs away, his mind reeling. "Mina, we can't. You're my maid and you're an alien. It's not done." "But it can be," Mina insists, her voice urgent. "Humans and Vulcans are genetically compatible. It's the result of ancient interspecies experimentation." Roger's thoughts race. It's 2150, and while aliens have integrated into human society, tensions remain high. Vulcans, with their logic and advanced technology, wield significant political power. A human-Vulcan union could have far-reaching consequences. "Do you understand what this could mean?" Mina presses. "A successful human-Vulcan mating could lead to a diplomatic breakthrough. It could secure Earth's position in the Galactic Council." The weight of the situation settles on Roger's shoulders. On one hand, helping Mina could potentially alter the course of human-alien relations. On the other, engaging with her could jeopardize his career and social standing. Human-alien relationships are still taboo, whispered about in dark corners but never openly acknowledged. Mina steps closer, her desperation palpable. "Please, Mr. Morales, I have nowhere else to turn. The cycle has begun, and I cannot control it. If you refuse, I cannot guarantee my actions or the safety of your home." Roger's mind whirls with the implications. The fate of intergalactic diplomacy could hinge on his decision. Yet the personal cost could be enormous. As Mina's eyes bore into his, pleading and primal, Roger realizes he stands at a crossroads of history. His next words could change everything, for himself, for Mina, and possibly for the entire human race. Roger's heart pounded as he stared at Mina, her words echoing in his mind. The weight of her request pressed down on him, threatening to crush him under its implications. He took a deep breath, steadying himself against the onslaught of conflicting thoughts and emotions. "Mina, I need some time to think about this," he managed, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's not a decision I can make lightly." Mina's eyes flashed with a mixture of desperation and understanding. "I comprehend, Mr. Morales, but please, do not take too long. My condition will only worsen with time." Roger nodded, his mind already racing. He needed help, advice from someone who could understand the complexities of this situation. As Mina retreated to her quarters, visibly struggling to maintain her composure, Roger pulled out his communicator. "Dr. Henderson, it's Roger. I need your help. It's urgent." Within the hour, Roger found himself in a state-of-the-art research facility on the outskirts of the city. The sterile white walls and advanced equipment stood in stark contrast to the turmoil in his mind. Dr. James Henderson, a tall man with graying hair and kind eyes, listened intently as Roger explained the situation. "Fascinating," Dr. Henderson murmured, his fingers dancing across a holographic display of Vulcan biological data. "The compatibility between humans and Vulcans is indeed possible, but Roger, you must understand the risks involved." Roger leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "What kind of risks?" "For one, Vulcan strength is significantly superior to humans, especially during their breeding cycle. The mating process could be intense, potentially dangerous for you." Dr. Henderson's eyes met Roger's, concern evident in his gaze. Furthermore, if successful, this mating could result in a hybrid offspring. It would be unprecedented with unknown implications for both species. Roger's mind reeled with this new information. The potential for a child hadn't even crossed his mind. Before he could respond, the lab door slid open with a soft hiss. "Roger, what's going on?" He turned to see Amanda Chen, his ex-girlfriend and current head of the Interspecies Relations Department, striding into the lab. Her dark eyes narrowed as she took in the scene before her. "Amanda, what are you doing here?" Roger asked, surprise coloring his voice. "I was in a meeting down the hall when I overheard your voice," she explained, her gaze shifting between Roger and Dr. Henderson. "I couldn't help but overhear. Are you seriously considering mating with a Vulcan?" Roger felt heat rise to his face. It's complicated, Amanda. Mina needs help, and the diplomatic implications could be enormous." Amanda's expression hardened. "Roger, do you understand the legal and ethical ramifications of what you're considering? This could be seen as taking advantage of Mina's vulnerable state. It might even violate interspecies laws." The three of them fell into a heated debate, their voices rising as they argued the merits and risks of Roger's potential actions. The tension in the room grew thick, almost palpable. Suddenly, a piercing alarm cut through their discussion. Red lights flashed throughout the facility, casting an eerie glow across their faces. Dr. Henderson rushed to a nearby console, his fingers flying across the controls. "Oh no," he breathed, his face pale in the pulsing light. "What is it?" Roger and Amanda asked in unison, moving to peer over the doctor's shoulder. The security footage on the screen showed a familiar figure at the facility's entrance. Mina, her face contorted with primal need, was tearing through the advanced security systems as if they were made of paper. "She must have followed your scent, Roger," Dr. Henderson explained, his voice tight with tension. "Her breeding cycle is intensifying. She's tracked you here." Roger watched in awe and fear as Mina's superhuman strength overwhelmed one security measure after another. The facility's defenses, designed to withstand the most determined intruders, were crumbling under her relentless assault. "We need to do something fast," Amanda urged, her earlier anger replaced by urgency. Dr. Henderson was already moving, pulling vials and syringes from a nearby cabinet. "I can prepare a sedative, but I can't guarantee its effectiveness or safety given her current state." Roger's mind raced, weighing his options. He could confront Mina, potentially giving in to her request, and facing all the personal and legal consequences that would entail. He could attempt to sedate her, risking her health and potentially worsening her condition. Or he could try to escape, involving higher authorities and possibly exposing the entire situation to the public eye. As he grappled with his decision, Amanda was already on her communicator, urgently contacting her superiors for guidance. Dr. Henderson worked feverishly on the sedative, his movements quick and precise. The alarms grew louder, more insistent. On the security feed, Mina had reached the final set of doors. Her fingers, impossibly strong, began to pry them apart. Roger's pulse thundered in his ears. Time was running out. Whatever he decided would not only determine his fate, but could reshape the future of human-alien relations on Earth. As the doors began to give way under Mina's relentless assault, Roger steeled himself for what was to come. The doors groaned under Mina's relentless assault, metal bending and warping as her Vulcan strength overpowered the facility's defenses. Roger's heart raced, his mind whirling with possible outcomes. In that moment, he made his choice. "Dr. Henderson," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them, "prepare a mild sedative just in case. Amanda, I need you to clear the building of non-essential personnel." Amanda's eyes widened. "Roger, you can't be serious." "Please," he interrupted, his gaze intense. "We don't have time to argue." With a reluctant nod, Amanda turned to carry out his request. Dr. Henderson hurried to his workstation, hands moving deftly as he prepared the sedative. Roger took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. He strode purposefully toward the entrance, the sound of tearing metal growing louder with each step. As he rounded the corner, the final barrier gave way with a resounding crash. Mina burst through the opening, her lithe form silhouetted against the flickering emergency lights. Her chest heaved, green skin glistening with exertion. When her wild eyes locked onto Roger, a primal growl escaped her lips. "Mina," Roger began, raising his hands in a placating gesture. "Let's talk about this." His words were cut short as Mina lunged forward, crossing the distance between them in a blur of motion. Roger barely managed to sidestep her grasp, her fingers brushing against his shirt as she flew past. Regaining his footing, Roger tried again to reason with her. "Mina, please, this isn't you. You're logical, controlled. Think about the consequences of—" Another growl interrupted him as Mina spun around, her pointed ears twitching with agitation. She stalked toward him, her movements fluid and predatory. Roger found himself backing away, his human agility tested as he narrowly avoided her reaching hands. As they danced this dangerous waltz through the facility's corridors, Roger became acutely aware of the changes overtaking Mina's body. Heat radiated from her in palpable waves, and a sweet, intoxicating scent filled the air around them. Despite his best efforts to remain clear-headed, Roger felt his own body responding to her pheromones. "Mr. Morales," Mina panted, her voice a mixture of desperation and desire. "I cannot control this. The cycle, it burns." Roger's back hit a wall and Mina was upon him in an instant. Her strength pinned him in place, her face mere inches from his own. He could see the internal struggle in her eyes, the last vestiges of her Vulcan control warring against her biological imperatives. "Mina," he whispered, his willpower weakening as her scent enveloped him. "We can't." But even as the words left his mouth, his hands moved of their own accord, settling on her waist. Mina's eyes fluttered closed at his touch, a soft moan escaping her lips. The heat between them intensified, logic and reason falling away in the face of their mutual desire. As if from a great distance, Roger heard the sound of running footsteps. Dr. Henderson appeared at the end of the corridor, syringe in hand. He froze at the sight before him, clearly torn between his duty and the intensity of the moment he was witnessing. Before anyone could move or speak, a new sound cut through the tension, the shrill wail of alarms. Red lights began to flash throughout the facility, casting an otherworldly glow over Roger and Mina's entangled forms. Suddenly, the air was filled with shouts and the heavy thud of boots on metal flooring. A team of black-clad figures rounded the corner, weapons raised. At their head strode a tall, stern-faced man whose very presence seemed to lower the temperature in the room. "Step away from the Vulcan," he barked, his voice carrying the unmistakable tone of authority. Roger and Mina sprang apart, the spell between them broken. As the armed figures surrounded them, Roger recognized the insignia on their uniforms. Interspecies Relations Enforcement Division. The stern-faced man approached, his cold eyes appraising the scene. "Roger Morales," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "You are under arrest for attempted violation of interspecies mating laws." As two agents moved to restrain Roger, Mina let out a keening wail. Her body convulsed, the unfulfilled biological imperative of her breeding cycle racking her with pain. Without hesitation, an agent raised a hypo spray to her neck. Mina's eyes rolled back, and she collapsed into waiting arms. "What are you doing?" Roger shouted, struggling against his restraints. "She needs help, not sedation." The stern-faced man, who Roger now recognized as Commander Maxwell Stone of IRED, turned to him with a look of disdain. "She'll receive appropriate care and custody, Mr. Morales. Your concern for her would be touching if it weren't so misplaced." As Roger was being led away, he caught sight of Dr. Henderson urgently speaking with one of the IRED agents. "You don't understand," the doctor was saying, his voice tight with worry. "If her breeding cycle isn't addressed properly, the health risks could be severe." Commander Stone's expression remained impassive as he gestured for his team to move out. Roger, Mina, Dr. Henderson, and Amanda, who had returned just in time to witness the aftermath, were escorted to separate high-security vehicles waiting outside. As the facility's doors slid open, Roger was momentarily blinded by a barrage of flashing lights. A crowd had gathered beyond the police barricade, their faces a mix of curiosity and shock. News drones buzzed overhead, their cameras capturing every detail of the unfolding scene. Roger's mind raced as he was guided into the waiting vehicle. The weight of what had transpired and what was yet to come settled heavily upon him. As the door slammed shut and the vehicle began to move, he caught a final glimpse of Mina being loaded into another transport, her unconscious form a stark reminder of the complexity of their situation. The convoy pulled away from the facility, leaving behind a swarm of speculation and a glimpse into a future where the lines between human and alien were blurring in ways no one had anticipated. As the city lights streaked past the tinted windows, Roger couldn't help but wonder, what would be the cost of their actions, not just for them, but for the delicate balance of human-Vulcan relations? As the city lights streaked past the tinted windows, Roger couldn't help but wonder, what would be the cost of their actions, not just for them, but for the delicate balance of human-Vulcan interactions? The convoy of sleek black vehicles wound its way through the bustling metropolis, their destination shrouded in secrecy. Roger's mind raced, replaying the events that had led to this moment. The feel of Mina's skin against his, the intoxicating scent of her pheromones, and the raw power of her Vulcan strength were seared into his memory. After what seemed like hours, the vehicles slowed and turned into an underground entrance. Roger caught a glimpse of heavily armed guards and state-of-the-art security measures before his view was obscured by the dimly lit tunnel. The convoy came to a stop in a vast subterranean garage. As the doors slid open, Roger was greeted by the sight of more armed personnel, their faces impassive behind tactical visors. He was roughly escorted from the vehicle, his wrists still bound behind his back. "Move it, Morales!" growled one of the guards, shoving him forward. Roger stumbled, regaining his balance as he was led through a maze of sterile corridors. The facility hummed with activity, a blend of advanced technology and military precision. He caught fleeting glimpses of Mina, Dr. Henderson, and Amanda being escorted in different directions before a heavy door slammed shut behind him. The interrogation room was a stark contrast to the bustling facility outside. Its bare walls and single tables seemed designed to intimidate, to strip away any sense of comfort or security. Roger was unceremoniously shoved into a chair, his restraints removed only to be reattached to the table. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as Roger sat alone, the weight of his actions pressing down on him. Finally, the door opened, and Commander Maxwell Stone strode in, his face a mask of cold professionalism. "Mr. Morales," Stone began, his voice clipped and authoritative, "I hope you understand the gravity of your situation." Roger straightened in his chair, meeting the commander's gaze. "With all due respect, sir, I don't think you understand the complexity of what's happening with Mina." Stone's eyes narrowed. "What I understand, Mr. Morales, is that your actions have potentially sparked a diplomatic crisis that could jeopardize Earth's standing in the Galactic Council." The commander began to pace, his hands clasped behind his back. "The Vulcan embassy has been notified. They're sending a representative as we speak. Do you have any idea of the political powder keg you've ignited?" Roger leaned forward, his restraints pulling taut. "Commander, Mina's life could be in danger. Her breeding cycle is a matter for our xenobiology team to handle," Stone interrupted. "Your involvement ends here, Morales. The potential ramifications of human-Vulcan mating go far beyond your personal desires or misguided altruism." As Stone continued his interrogation, delving into the minutiae of Roger's interactions with Mina, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. The commander's hand flew to his earpiece, his expression darkening as he listened to the incoming report. "Impossible," he muttered, striding towards the door. He paused, turning back to Roger with a glare that could have melted steel. "Don't move, Morales. This isn't over." The door slammed shut, leaving Roger alone once more. But the alarms continued, their urgent wail a clear sign that something had gone terribly wrong. Meanwhile, in a specialized medical ward several levels away, Dr. Alara Voss frowned at the readings on her holographic display. Mina lay on a biobed, her green-tinged skin flushed and glistening with sweat. The Vulcan woman's chest heaved with labored breaths, her fingers clawing at the sheets. "Increase the sedative dosage by 15%, Dr. Voss ordered, her eyes never leaving the fluctuating vital signs. A nurse complied, adjusting the controls on a nearby console. "Doctor, her body is metabolizing the sedatives at an alarming rate. I've never seen anything like it." Dr. Voss nodded grimly. Vulcan physiology is complex enough under normal circumstances. This breeding cycle is pushing her body to its limits. As if in response to the doctor's words, Mina's eyes flew open, her back arching off the bed. A primal scream tore from her throat, the sound so raw and agonized that the medical staff instinctively took a step back. "Restrain her!" Dr. Voss shouted, rushing to Mina's side with a hypospray in hand. But before anyone could react, Mina's hand shot out, gripping the doctor's wrist with inhuman strength. In a blur of motion, the Vulcan woman was on her feet, tossing Dr. Voss aside as if she weighed nothing. The alarms blared to life as Mina darted for the door, her movements fluid and predatory. Security personnel flooded into the room, but Mina was already gone, disappearing into the labyrinth of corridors beyond. In a nearby laboratory, Dr. Henderson's head snapped up at the sound of the alarms. He had been granted limited access to the facility's resources, poring over data on Vulcan physiology and reproductive cycles. His eyes widened as he realized the implications of what he was seeing. "It's not just physical," he muttered, his fingers flying over the holographic keyboard. "There's a telepathic component, a mental link." The doctor's train of thought was interrupted as the lab's door hissed open. Amanda Chen burst in, her face a mask of concern and willpower. "Dr. Henderson, we have a situation," she said, her voice tight with urgency. "Mina's escaped containment, and the Vulcan ambassador has just arrived. We need solutions. Fast." Henderson nodded, gesturing to his findings. "I think I might have something, but it's risky. We need to get to Roger. He might be the key to stabilizing Mina's condition without full physical mating." As they rushed from the lab, the facility plunged into darkness, emergency lights casting an eerie red glow through the corridors. The power fluctuation lasted only seconds, but it was enough to cause chaos throughout the complex. In his holding cell, Roger felt a change in the air, a prickling sensation at the base of his skull. He knew with a certainty that defied logic that Mina was free and searching for him. The alarms, the power fluctuation, the palpable tension in the air. It all pointed to a situation spiraling out of control. Roger stood, his restraints forgotten as he focused on the door. He could almost feel Mina's presence, her need calling out to him like a beacon in the storm. But he also sensed the danger, the competing forces converging on this moment: human security, Vulcan diplomacy, and the raw, uncontrollable power of an alien biology they barely understood. As footsteps approached his cell, Roger steeled himself for what was to come. He knew that his next actions would shape not just his fate or Mina's, but potentially the future of human-Vulcan relations. The door began to open, and Roger prepared to face whatever or whoever waited on the other side. The door swung open, revealing Commander Stone, his face a mask of barely held-back fury. "Morales!" he barked. "On your feet! Now!" Roger complied, his heart racing as Stone entered the cell, flanked by two armed guards. The commander's eyes darted around the small room, assessing for any signs of trouble. "Sir," Roger began, "I know what you're thinking, but—" "Save it," Stone snapped, raising a hand to silence him. "We have a situation, and against my better judgment, I'm considering your involvement." Roger's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Before he could respond, Stone continued, his voice low and urgent. "The Vulcan woman has escaped containment. She's tearing through the facility like a force of nature, and our standard protocols are proving ineffective." A distant crash echoed through the corridor, followed by the sound of alarms blaring anew. Stone's eyes hardened. "I need you to talk some sense into her, Morales. You're the only one who's formed any kind of connection with her. It might be our best shot at resolving this without further incident." Roger nodded, a mixture of relief and apprehension washing over him. "I'll do whatever I can to help, sir. But I need you to understand, Mina isn't herself right now. Her biology is driving her actions." Stone's eyes narrowed. "I'm well aware of the complexities, Morales. That's why I'm taking this risk." He gestured to one of the guards, who approached with a small device and a compact weapon. "Tracking device," Stone explained, as the guard attached the small, blinking object to Roger's wrist. "And a non-lethal stun weapon, for emergencies only. Use it if you have to, but remember, she's not expendable. Roger nodded, accepting the stun weapon with a grim expression. As they exited the cell, the facility shuddered, lights flickering ominously. She's heading for the power core, Stone muttered, consulting a datapad. Go, find her. Talk her down if you can. We'll be monitoring your progress. With a final nod, Roger set off down the corridor, his senses on high alert. The trail of destruction left in Mina's wake was impossible to miss. Bent metal panels, shattered equipment, and the occasional unconscious security officer. As he neared the power core, a familiar scent caught his attention. The sweet, intoxicating aroma he'd encountered earlier. His body reacted instinctively, pulse quickening and skin flushing with warmth. Mina, he called out softly, entering the vast chamber housing the facility's power core. Banks of humming machinery filled the space, casting eerie shadows in the emergency lighting. A blur of motion caught his eye, and suddenly Mina was there, landing gracefully atop a nearby console. Roger's breath caught in his throat. She was transformed. Her skin emitted a faint, pulsating glow, and her eyes swirled with an otherworldly intensity. Roger, she purred, her voice a mixture of recognition and primal hunger. He took a cautious step forward, hands raised in a placating gesture. Mina, I'm here to help. We need to get you back to the medical bay. Dr. Henderson and Dr. Voss are working on a solution. Mina tilted her head, a predatory smile playing across her lips. Without warning, she launched herself at Roger, moving with inhuman speed and grace. Roger barely managed to dodge, his human reflexes pushed to their limits as he weaved between banks of machinery. Mina pursued, her movements fluid and relentless. Mina, please! Roger called out, narrowly avoiding her grasp. I know you're in there. Fight this! For a moment, Mina hesitated, a flicker of recognition passing across her features. But then the moment passed, and she lunged forward once more. As they grappled, Roger felt his own body betraying him, responding to Mina's potent pheromones. The line between resistance and desire blurred, making it increasingly difficult to maintain his focus. Suddenly, the door to the power core slammed open. Ambassador Sorak strode in, flanked by a team of stern-faced Vulcan scientists. They carried a large, complex device between them. Step aside, human, Sorak commanded, his voice cold and imperious. We will handle this matter according to Vulcan tradition. The Vulcan team began setting up their device, a collection of crystalline structures and pulsing energy fields. Roger watched in growing alarm as they activated the machine, directing its output towards Mina. The effect was immediate and horrifying. Mina's body convulsed, her face contorting in agony as she let out a bone-chilling scream. The telepathic sedation was clearly causing her immense pain. In that moment, Roger made his choice. With fluid motion born of desperation, he raised the stun weapon and fired, first at Ambassador Sorak, then at each member of the Vulcan team in rapid succession. They crumpled to the ground, incapacitated. As alarms blared anew, Roger rushed to Mina's side. He pulled a hypospray from his pocket, the pheromone-infused sedative Dr. Henderson and Dr. Voss had prepared. With a silent prayer, he pressed it to Mina's neck and activated it. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then gradually, Mina's breathing steadied. The frenzied look in her eyes faded, replaced by clarity and recognition. Roger? She murmured, her voice hoarse but controlled. What's happening? I feel different. Before Roger could respond, a new sensation washed over him. A mental connection, faint but undeniable. He could sense Mina's thoughts, her emotions, as if they were his own. We've formed a bond, Mina said, wonder and confusion mingling in her voice. It's stabilizing my condition, but how? The power core door burst open once more. Commander Stone stormed in, flanked by a heavily armed security team. His eyes widened as he took in the scene. The unconscious Vulcans, Roger and Mina's intimate proximity, the discarded stun weapon on the floor. Morales, Stone bellowed, his face flushed with anger. What in blazes have you done? As security personnel moved to separate them, Roger felt Mina's panic through their newfound connection. He squeezed her hand reassuringly, then turned to face Commander Stone. "Sir," he began, his voice steady despite the chaos around them, "I can explain everything. But first, you need to know. The situation has changed. Dramatically." Stone's eyes narrowed, his gaze shifting between Roger, Mina, and the unconscious Vulcan delegation. "You have no idea," he growled, raising a hand to his earpiece. "The Vulcans have an entire fleet in orbit, demanding answers. Earth's forces are mobilizing as we speak. This has become a full-blown diplomatic crisis." As Roger and Mina were led away in restraints, their mental link hummed with shared anxiety and a growing sense of connection. Whatever came next, they would face it together. A human and a Vulcan, bound by forces beyond their control, at the center of a storm that threatened to reshape the future of interspecies relations. This has become a full-blown diplomatic crisis. As Roger and Mina were led away in restraints, their mental link hummed with shared anxiety and a growing sense of connection. However, their journey was cut short as a flurry of activity erupted around them. Commander Stone's hand flew to his earpiece, his expression shifting from anger to disbelief. "Stand down," he ordered, motioning for the guards to release Roger and Mina. New orders from the top were to escort them to Lab 7 immediately. Roger and Mina exchanged puzzled glances as their restraints were removed. Through their mental link, they shared a moment of confusion and trepidation. "What's going on, Commander?" Roger asked, rubbing his wrists. Stone's mind focused. "The President of Earth and the Vulcan High Council have reached an agreement. You two are to complete the mating process under observation. For science and diplomacy, apparently." Mina's eyes widened, a mix of relief and apprehension washing over her. Roger felt her emotions as if they were his own, the bond between them growing stronger with each passing moment. As they were escorted through the facility, Roger noticed the terrifying chaos around them. Scientists rushed past with arms full of equipment. Security personnel barked orders into communicators. And through the windows, he caught glimpses of ships descending from orbit. Lab 7, typically used for the most sensitive experiments, had been hastily converted into a controlled environment. As they entered, Roger and Mina were greeted by the familiar faces of Dr. Henderson and Dr. Voss, along with a team of stern-faced Vulcan scientists. "We'll be monitoring your vital signs and collecting data throughout the process," Dr. Henderson explained, his voice a mixture of scientific excitement and concern. "This is unprecedented territory for both our species." As the medical team attached monitoring devices to their skin, Roger felt a sudden shift in Mina's presence. He turned to find her skin taking on an ethereal, iridescent glow. The Vulcan scientists murmured among themselves, frantically noting this unexpected development. "It's time," Mina whispered, her voice filled with an otherworldly resonance. The scientists retreated behind a force field, leaving Roger and Mina alone in the center of the lab. As they came together, their bodies intertwining in a complex dance of human and Vulcan biology, Roger felt the world around him fade away. Their mental link exploded into a kaleidoscope of shared memories and emotions. Roger saw flashes of Mina's childhood on Vulcan, felt the heat of its sun on his skin. Mina experienced the rush of Roger's first flight in a Starship simulator, the exhilaration coursing through her veins. Their separate experiences merged and intertwined, creating a tapestry of shared consciousness. As their connection deepened, Roger felt a strange sensation building within him. It was as if a door in his mind that had always been locked was suddenly flung open. He became acutely aware of the emotions radiating from the observers behind the force field, the curiosity of the scientists, the hardly restrained excitement of Dr. Henderson, the stoic fascination of the Vulcans. The intensity of their union built to a crescendo, and suddenly a burst of energy erupted from their joined bodies. The lab's equipment sparked and sputtered, plunging the room into darkness for a moment before emergency systems kicked in. As Roger and Mina lay entwined, recovering from the intensity of their experience, the lab burst into frenzied activity. Dr. Henderson rushed forward, medical tricorder in hand, his eyes wide with amazement. "Incredible," he breathed, scanning their bodies. "Your genetic structures, they've been altered. It's as if your DNA has found a way to create perfect compatibility between human and Vulcan physiology." Before Roger could process this information, He was hit by a wave of emotions from outside the lab. Fear, confusion, and curiosity washed over him in dizzying succession. He realized with a start that he was sensing the feelings of people throughout the facility, perhaps even beyond. "Something's happening up there," he said, pointing towards the ceiling. "I can feel it. Ships. More aliens are coming." As if on cue, Commander Stone burst into the lab, his face a mask of almost unchecked panic. "We've got a situation," he announced. "That energy burst you two created? It was detected in orbit. We've got ships from half the Galactic Council heading our way, demanding answers." The lab erupted into chaos as scientists argued over the implications of their findings, and security personnel scrambled to respond to the new threat. Through it all, Roger and Mina remained connected, their newfound bond a calm center in the storm of activity around them. As they watched the frantic preparations, a shared thought passed between them. This was bigger than either of them had imagined. Their union had not just dedicationed a biological imperative or bridged a diplomatic gap, it had potentially changed the course of galactic history. Roger sensed a group of security personnel approaching the lab, their intentions clear even before they entered. He turned to Mina, their eyes meeting in silent communication. They had a choice to make: submit to further testing and potential confinement, or take control of their own destiny. As the door to the lab slid open, Roger and Mina tensed, ready to face whatever came next. The fate of their future, and possibly that of human-alien relations throughout the galaxy, hung in the balance. Balance. As the door to the lab slid open, Roger and Mina exchanged a swift glance, their newfound mental link humming with shared dedication. In that split second, they made their choice. As the security team entered, Roger and Mina sprang into action. Their enhanced physical capabilities, a result of their recent union, caught the guards completely off guard. Roger ducked under the first guard's reach, using the man's momentum to throw him off balance. Simultaneously, Mina executed a perfect Vulcan nerve pinch on another, dropping him instantly. "This way!" Roger called out, both verbally and through their mental link. They sprinted past the stunned scientists and Commander Stone, whose shouts of alarm echoed behind them. Racing down the corridor, they encountered more security personnel. Roger felt a surge of information flood his mind. Mina's knowledge of Vulcan martial arts. Without hesitation, he applied these techniques, his movements fluid and precise as he disabled two more guards. Alarms blared throughout the facility as they ran, red emergency lights bathing the hallways in an eerie glow. Through their mental connection, Roger sensed Mina's growing anxiety about their escape route. "The ventilation system," Mina suggested telepathically. "It's our best chance." Roger nodded, guiding them towards a maintenance hatch he'd noticed during his earlier patrols. With strength he didn't know he possessed, he wrenched the cover off, and they clambered inside just as another squad of security personnel rounded the corner. The narrow confines of the air ducts forced them to crawl on hands and knees. Roger led the way, relying on his knowledge of the facility's layout to navigate the maze-like system. Behind them, they could hear the muffled sounds of the facility going into lockdown. Blast doors sealing shut, security teams mobilizing. As they crawled, Roger became acutely aware of the thoughts and emotions emanating from throughout the complex. He sensed the frantic activity in the command center, where Commander Stone was coordinating the search operation. He felt the mixture of fear and fascination from the scientists analyzing their data. Most prominently, he sensed the steely commitment of the Vulcan contingent, their minds focused on recapturing Mina at all costs. "They're using thermal imaging to track us," Roger warned Mina through their link. "We need to find a way to mask our heat signatures." Mina's mind raced, recalling her scientific training. "The refrigeration units for the biolab," she suggested. "If we can get close enough, the cold air might confuse their sensors." Adjusting their course, they made their way towards the lower levels of the facility. The going was slow and claustrophobic, but their mental link provided a sense of calm and unity that kept panic at bay. As they neared the biolab, a new sensation washed over Roger. He felt a surge of vertigo as his mind seemed to expand, touching the consciousness of beings far beyond the facility walls. He gasped, overwhelmed by the input. "Roger, what is it?" Mina asked, concern flooding their link. "The ships," he managed to reply. I can sense them. Dozens of alien vessels in orbit. They're agitated, demanding answers about the energy burst we created. Mina's eyes widened. This is bigger than we imagined. We need to get out of here. Fast. They reached the biolab's ventilation shaft, feeling the rush of cold air against their skin. As they paused to catch their breath, Roger became aware of a familiar presence approaching. "Dr. Voss," he whispered aloud. "She's coming." Moments later, they heard the sound of another vent cover being removed. Dr. Alara Voss's face appeared, her expression a mixture of concern and persistence. "Thank goodness I found you," she said in a hushed tone. "I can help you escape, but we must hurry. The situation above us is deteriorating rapidly." Roger and Mina exchanged a glance, their mental link buzzing with shared uncertainty. Could they trust her? But as Roger probed Dr. Voss's emotions, he sensed only genuine concern and a deep-seated belief in their importance. "Lead the way," Roger nodded, making the decision for both of them. Dr. Voss guided them through a series of maintenance tunnels, explaining in whispers about her involvement with a secret organization dedicated to fostering peaceful interspecies relations. As they moved, Roger's empathic abilities continued to grow, allowing him to track the movements of search teams throughout the facility. They emerged from the tunnels into a dimly lit storage area. Dr. Voss hurried them towards a section of wall that looked no different from any other. With practiced ease, she manipulated a hidden panel, revealing a dark passageway beyond. "This tunnel will lead you outside the facility's perimeter," she explained, handing them a small device. "This will mask your energy signatures, but only for a short time. There's a safe house about 10 kilometers north. You'll find supplies and medical equipment there." As they prepared to enter the tunnel, Mina suddenly doubled over, a wave of nausea washing over her. Roger steadied her, their mental link flooded with a mixture of surprise and concern. "Mina, what's wrong?" he asked, both aloud and mentally. She looked up at him, her eyes wide with realization. I think I might be pregnant." The implications of this revelation hit them both like a physical force. A human-Vulcan hybrid, the first of its kind. The stakes of their escape had just risen exponentially. Dr. Voss's expression grew even more serious. "All the more reason for you to reach the safe house quickly. I'll do what I can to misdirect the search teams, but you must hurry." With a final nod of thanks, Roger and Mina plunged into the dark tunnel. As they ran hand in hand, their mental link pulsed with a mix of fear, excitement, and fierce protectiveness for the potential life growing within Mina. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of the facility's search intensifying. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and the weight of a discovery that could reshape the future of human-alien relations. As they emerged from the tunnel into the dense forest beyond the facility's walls, the whir of search drones filled the air, and distant shouts echoed through the trees. Their escape had only just begun. Their escape had only just begun. Roger and Mina emerged from the tunnel into the dense forest, their hearts racing as the whir of search drones filled the air. Distant shouts echoed through the trees, spurring them to action. "This way," Roger whispered, guiding Mina through the underbrush. Their newly enhanced physical abilities allowed them to move swiftly and silently, dodging low-hanging branches and leaping over fallen logs with ease. Dr. Voss appeared behind them, her face etched with perseverance. "Quickly," she urged, pressing a small device into Roger's hand. "Activate this. It will mask your energy signatures, but only for a short time." Roger fumbled with the device, his fingers finding a small switch. A soft hum emanated from it as he turned it on, and he immediately felt a strange tingling sensation wash over his skin. For 30 minutes, they moved through the forest at breakneck speed, their heightened senses allowing them to navigate the treacherous terrain with uncanny precision. But as they pushed deeper into the wilderness, Roger noticed the device's hum beginning to falter. "The masking device is failing," he warned, his voice tight with concern. Mina's eyes scanned the area, her Vulcan training kicking in. "There," she pointed, indicating a dilapidated structure barely visible through the thick foliage. "It appears to be an abandoned research outpost." They made their way towards the building, its weathered exterior a testament to years of neglect. As they approached, Roger's empathic abilities picked up no signs of life within. "It's clear," he confirmed, and they quickly slipped inside. The interior was a mess of dust-covered equipment and toppled furniture. Dr. Voss immediately set to work, her eyes lighting up as she spotted a bank of outdated but still functional communication devices. This must have been an early human-alien collaboration site, she mused, her fingers dancing over the controls. Some of this equipment might still be useful. While Dr. Voss worked on the communication systems, Roger helped Mina settle onto a worn couch. She winced, her hand instinctively moving to her abdomen. "Are you all right?" Roger asked, concern flooding their mental link. Mina nodded, but her eyes betrayed her uncertainty. I think we need to confirm our suspicions." Dr. Voss overheard their exchange and quickly located a basic medical kit. With practiced efficiency, she conducted a rudimentary examination of Mina, her expression growing more amazed by the second. "It's true," she breathed, looking up at them with wide eyes. "Mina, you're pregnant, and based on these readings, it appears to be a human-Vulcan hybrid, the first of its kind." The news hit Roger like a physical force. His empathic abilities suddenly spiked, and he found himself overwhelmed by a flood of sensations. He could feel the tiny spark of life within Mina, a presence both familiar and utterly alien. "I can sense it," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. "Our child." Their moment of wonder was interrupted by a burst of static from the communication equipment. Dr. Voss rushed back, her fingers flying over the controls as she attempted to decode the encrypted transmissions. "It's from the alien ships in orbit," she explained, her brow furrowed in concentration. They're demanding to meet with you both. The source of the energy burst, and they're threatening diplomatic consequences if their request is denied." The gravity of their situation settled over them like a heavy blanket. They were no longer just fugitives from a secret facility. They were now at the center of a potential interstellar incident. Suddenly, Roger tensed, his empathic abilities alerting him to approaching danger. "They're getting closer," he warned. "I can sense Commander Stone leading a team with heat-sensing drones. And the Vulcans, they're tracking Mina's pheromones." Dr. Voss's expression hardened with willpower. "I've managed to establish a secure channel to my organization. They have a plan to extract us using an experimental teleportation device, but—" She hesitated, her eyes flicking to Mina's abdomen. "It's untested on pregnant individuals. There's a significant risk to both Mina and the child." Before they could fully process this information, alarms blared from the outpost's ancient systems. Their location had been compromised. "We're out of time," Roger said, helping Mina to her feet. "We need to make a decision. Now." As they stood there, the sounds of approaching vehicles growing louder by the second, Roger's mind was assaulted by a tidal wave of emotions and intentions from those closing in on them. Commander Stone's unwavering commitment to his duty, Dr. Henderson's burning scientific curiosity, and surprisingly, a newfound sense of reverence emanating from Ambassador Sorak. But overshadowing it all was a sense of something much larger approaching, a massive gathering of consciousnesses drawing near to Earth, all drawn by the energy signature Roger and Mina had produced. "There's more coming," Roger gasped, struggling to process the input. "An entire fleet of ships from different alien races. They're all heading here, to Earth." The implications of this revelation hung heavy in the air as Roger, Mina, and Dr. Voss faced their moment of truth. Surrender and face separation, experimentation, and an uncertain fate for their unborn child? Or risk everything on an untested teleportation device that could save them, or potentially harm the very life they sought to protect? As the first searchlights began to cut through the forest's gloom, illuminating the decrepit walls of their temporary sanctuary, they knew their next move would not only seal their own fate, but potentially alter the course of human-alien relations forever. The weight of their decision pressed upon them as heavily as the approaching danger. With a shared glance, Roger and Mina nodded their agreement to Dr. Voss. They would risk the experimental teleportation device. "Quickly!" Dr. Voss urged, her fingers flying over the controls of the ancient communication equipment. She input a series of complex codes, initializing the teleportation sequence. A low hum filled the air, growing in intensity as energy began to coalesce around them. Roger pulled Mina close, their mental link pulsing with a mixture of fear and hope. Dr. Voss joined them, her face set with persistence. Just as the door to the outpost burst open, revealing Commander Stone and his team, the trio was enveloped in a shimmering field of energy. Roger caught a glimpse of Stone's shocked expression before the world around them dissolved into a kaleidoscope of light and sensation. The teleportation process was unlike anything they had experienced before. It felt as if their very atoms were being pulled apart and reassembled in rapid succession. Roger's empathic abilities went haywire, bombarded by flashes of emotion and consciousness from countless unseen entities. When reality solidified around them once more, they found themselves in a sterile, high-tech facility. The stark contrast to the dilapidated outpost they had just left was jarring. Before they could fully orient themselves, alarms began blaring throughout the complex. "The teleportation signature?" Dr. Voss gasped, her eyes wide with realization. "It's acting like a beacon." Mina doubled over suddenly, a cry of pain escaping her lips. Roger steadied her, his pupils dilating as he sensed a surge of activity within her body. "Something's wrong," he said, panic edging into his voice. A team of individuals in white lab coats rushed into the room, led by a tall, blue-skinned humanoid with large, multifaceted eyes. "Get her to the medical bay immediately," the alien ordered, its voice resonating with harmonics beyond human hearing. As they rushed Mina to the medical bay on a hovering gurney, Roger felt his consciousness expanding at an alarming rate. The emotions and thoughts of everyone in the facility crashed over him like a tidal wave. He staggered, overwhelmed by the sensory input. "Roger!" Dr. Voss called out, but her voice seemed to come from a great distance. He felt himself falling, his mind spiraling into a vortex of alien consciousnesses. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was Mina being wheeled into a room filled with advanced medical equipment. Roger regained consciousness to find himself on a medical bed, electrodes attached to his temples. The blue-skinned alien stood over him, adjusting holographic displays that floated in the air. "Your neural patterns have been stabilized," the alien informed him. "I am Dr. Zax, Chief Xenobiologist of Stellar Unity. Your empathic abilities were overloaded by the teleportation process and your partner's accelerated condition." "Mina," Roger croaked, sitting up despite the protest of his aching body. "Where is she? Is she all right?" Dr. Zax's multifaceted eyes seemed to shimmer with concern. "Your mate is in labor. The teleportation has had an unprecedented effect on her pregnancy. The fetus has developed months' worth of growth in a matter of hours." Roger's mind reeled with the implications. He reached out with his empathic senses, carefully this time, and felt the turbulent mix of pain, dedication, and wonder emanating from a nearby room. Beneath it all, he sensed something new, a rapidly evolving consciousness that felt both familiar and utterly alien. "I need to be with her," he said, swinging his legs off the bed. Dr. Zax nodded, helping Roger to his feet. "Of course, but be warned. The birth of your child may have far-reaching consequences beyond anything we could have anticipated." As they made their way to the delivery room, alarms once again blared through the facility. Dr. Voss rushed up to them, her face pale with worry. "We've been discovered," she said breathlessly. "Earth's forces are converging on our location. And there's more. The alien fleet in orbit has detected the energy spike from the accelerated pregnancy. They're sending ships down to investigate." Roger's head swam with the influx of information and emotion. He could sense the anxiety permeating the entire facility, the fierce willpower of the approaching Earth forces, and something else, a vast alien presence descending from above, its intentions unclear. They entered the delivery room to find Mina surrounded by a team of diverse alien medical professionals. Her face was contorted in pain, but her eyes lit up when she saw Roger. He rushed to her side, taking her hand and instantly connecting through their mental link. The next few moments were a blur of intense sensation. Roger felt every contraction as if it were his own, the pain mingling with a sense of awe as he sensed the child's rapidly developing mind. The medical team worked with practiced efficiency, using technology far beyond anything available on Earth. Suddenly, a surge of energy pulsed through the room, momentarily overloading the facility's systems. The lights flickered, and Roger felt a brief lapse in the cloaking field that had been shielding them. "They've found us," Dr. Voss said, her voice tight with tension. "Earth's military and the alien ships, they're both closing in." As if in response to the growing crisis, Mina let out a final, powerful push. The room fell silent for a moment, then filled with the sound of a newborn's cry, a sound unlike any human or Vulcan child, carrying harmonic overtones that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of reality. Roger stared in awe at the tiny being placed on Mina's chest. The child, a girl, had Mina's pointed ears and Roger's eyes, but there was something more. Her skin seemed to shimmer with an inner light, and when she opened her eyes, they held a depth of awareness that was both beautiful and unsettling. As Roger and Mina marveled at their daughter, the facility shook with the sound of distant explosions. Earth's forces had begun their assault on the outer defenses. Simultaneously, the ceiling seemed to warp and distort as immense gravitational forces pressed down upon them. The alien ships had arrived. Dr. Zax looked from the newborn to the rattling walls of the facility, his alien features set in a grave expression. "The birth of your child has set events in motion that cannot be undone. The fate of multiple worlds now hangs in the balance, and we find ourselves at the center of the storm." Roger held Mina and their daughter close, his empathic senses overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the forces converging upon them. As the sounds of battle grew closer and the pressure from above intensified, he realized that the true challenge was only just beginning. The true challenge was only just unfolding, as the facility shook with another tremor, more violent than before. Roger's empathic senses, still raw from the overload, picked up a surge of grit from beyond the walls. He recognized the unwavering focus of Commander Stone and the analytical precision of Ambassador Sorak. They were close, too close. "We need to move," Dr. Zax urged, his multifaceted eyes darting to the various holographic displays surrounding them. "The Earth-Vulcan forces have breached our outer defenses." As if to underscore his words, the lights flickered ominously. Mina clutched their newborn daughter closer, her eyes wide with a mixture of exhaustion and concern. The child, still glowing with an otherworldly light, remained eerily calm amidst the chaos. Dr. Voss burst into the room, her face flushed with exertion. "We've enacted emergency protocols," she announced, her voice steady despite the urgency of the situation. "But we need to prepare for the possibility of—" Her words were cut short as Roger doubled over, his empathic abilities suddenly overwhelmed by a tidal wave of alien consciousness. "They're here," he gasped, struggling to filter the cacophony of thoughts and emotions. "The Zarkonian collective. They've landed." The medical team sprang into action, preparing Mina and the child for transport. Dr. Zax turned to Roger, his alien features set in a grave expression. "Your empathic abilities may be our greatest asset now, but also our greatest vulnerability. Are you certain you can endure this?" Roger nodded, steeling himself against the onslaught of sensory input. "I'm not leaving Mina or our child," he said, his voice firm despite the strain evident in his features. As they rushed through the corridors of the facility, Roger could sense the approaching forces from all sides. The disciplined minds of Earth's military, the logical focus of the Vulcans, and the alien consciousness of the Zarkonians created a dizzying mental landscape. They reached a fortified section of the medical bay just as another power surge rocked the facility. The lights dimmed, then brightened to an almost painful intensity. Roger felt a spike of alarm from Dr. Voss and the medical team. "The child's energy signature," Dr. Zax explained, his fingers flying over a control panel. "It's interfering with our systems. We need to stabilize her vitals before—" A piercing cry from the infant cut through the air, accompanied by a pulse of energy that sent sparks flying from nearby equipment. Roger instinctively reached out with his mind, forming a telepathic link with his daughter. The connection was unlike anything he had experienced before, a vast, rapidly expanding consciousness that threatened to engulf his own. "Roger," Mina called out, her voice strained. "Something's happening. She's growing, changing." True to Mina's words, the child in her arms was visibly developing, her body elongating and her features becoming more defined with each passing moment. The medical team watched in astonishment as months of growth occurred in a matter of minutes. Dr. Voss, her face pale but determined, began adjusting the medical equipment to accommodate the child's rapidly changing physiology. "This is unprecedented," she muttered, her eyes never leaving the readouts. "The hybrid physiology is adapting at an exponential rate." Another tremor shook the room, this one accompanied by the distant sound of an explosion. Roger's empathic senses flared, picking up a mixture of surprise and apprehension from the approaching forces. The energy pulse from their daughter's accelerated growth had disabled their equipment, momentarily halting their advance. In the midst of the chaos, a new presence made itself known to Roger's mind. A group of individuals moving with stealth and purpose through the facility. Their thoughts were guarded, but he could sense their willpower and loyalty to stellar unity. "We have an extraction team en route," Dr. Zaks announced, confirming Roger's perception. "Agent Blackwood and his team will attempt to secure an escape route for you and your family." As the medical team worked feverishly to stabilize the child's condition, Roger felt a sudden shift in the mental landscape surrounding them. The hostile intent of the approaching forces began to waver, replaced by confusion and, in some cases, awe. "She's projecting," he realized, looking down at his daughter in amazement. The child's eyes, wise beyond her rapidly advancing years, were filled with an inner light. Through their telepathic connection, Roger could see glimpses of the visions she was sharing, a future of unity and cooperation between humans, Vulcans, and countless alien races. The visions were so powerful, so compelling, that Roger found himself momentarily lost in them. He was jolted back to reality by Dr. Voss's urgent voice. "We're out of time," she said, her eyes darting to the sealed door of their sanctuary. "The Earth-Vulcan forces have regrouped, and the Zarkonians are converging on our location. We need to make a decision now." Roger looked at Mina, seeing his own uncertainty reflected in her eyes. Their daughter, now resembling a toddler more than a newborn, gazed back at them with an unsettling intelligence. Through their shared telepathic link, Roger could sense her rapidly maturing consciousness, grappling with the complexities of their situation. The facility shook once more as the combined Earth-Vulcan forces resumed their assault. In orbit, the alien fleet maneuvered into position, their intentions unclear. And somewhere in the maze of corridors, Agent Blackwood and his team drew ever closer, offering a tenuous promise of escape. With the weight of multiple worlds pressing down upon them, Roger and Mina faced an impossible choice: trust in their extraordinary child's burgeoning abilities, attempt a daring escape, or try to negotiate with the converging factions, each with their own agenda for the hybrid child. As alarms blared and the sounds of battle grew ever nearer, Roger took Mina's hand, their minds linking in silent communication. Whatever they decided, they would face it together, with their remarkable daughter at the center of a storm that threatened to reshape the very fabric of interstellar relations. As the tension in the room reached a fever pitch, something extraordinary happened. A wave of calm washed over Roger, emanating from the child in Mina's arms. The infant's eyes, wise beyond their years, locked onto his. In that moment, Roger understood what needed to be done. "We need to show them," he said softly to Mina. She nodded, her own empathic abilities allowing her to sense the shift in their daughter's consciousness. With a deep breath, Roger stepped forward, cradling their child. "Please," he addressed the room, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Before any more blood is shed, listen to what our daughter has to share." As if on cue, the hybrid child began to glow with an otherworldly light. A powerful, telepathic message radiated from her, touching the minds of everyone in the facility and beyond. The effect was immediate. The sounds of battle abruptly ceased. In the corridors outside, Roger could sense the Earth-Vulcan forces, led by Commander Stone and Ambassador Sorak, halting their advance mere meters from the medical bay. Through his empathic link, he felt their confusion, then wonder. Dr. Voss's eyes widened as she checked the readouts on her handheld device. The Zarkonian ships. They're powering down their weapon systems. Taking advantage of this momentary ceasefire, Roger nodded to Dr. Zaks and the medical team. "It's time," he said. With Mina by his side and their rapidly growing child cradled between them, they emerged from the medical bay. The infant, now appearing to be several months old, continued to emit a soft, ethereal glow. Dr. Voss and her team flanked them, monitoring the child's unprecedented development with a mixture of scientific fascination and awe. As they stepped into the corridor, they were met by Marcus Blackwood and his stellar Unity operatives. Without a word, the agents formed a protective perimeter around the family. "This way," Blackwood said, gesturing towards the heart of the facility. "There's a central chamber where we can gather all parties. It was designed for interspecies negotiations. Seems fitting, doesn't it?" As they moved through the facility, Roger marveled at the sudden stillness. Where moments ago there had been chaos and destruction, now there was an expectant hush. He could sense the minds of countless beings, human, Vulcan, and alien alike, all focused on the child in his arms. The central chamber was vast, its high ceiling adorned with holographic projections of star systems. As they entered, Roger saw Commander Stone and Ambassador Sorak approaching from one side, their weapons lowered but their postures still tense. From another entrance came the Zarkonian emissaries, their otherworldly forms rippling with terrifying energy. Above them, holographic projections flickered to life, showing the faces of the alien fleet's leaders watching from orbit. The chamber, once built for hypothetical encounters, was now the stage for a pivotal moment in galactic history. As all eyes turned to them, Roger felt a surge of energy from the child. Before their eyes, her growth accelerated dramatically. Within minutes, she had developed the appearance and cognitive abilities of a young adult. The hybrid, now able to stand on her own, stepped forward. "I am Zara," she said, her voice a melodious blend of her parents' tones. The name, Roger realized, combined elements of both human and Vulcan languages. "I come before you as a bridge between worlds, a living testament to the potential of unity." As Zara spoke, her body continued to change, adapting in real time to better facilitate communication with each species present. Her skin shimmered with an inner light, her features subtly shifting to reflect aspects of every race represented in the chamber. "I have seen the future," Zara continued, her gaze sweeping the room. "A future where the strengths of each of our species combine to create something greater than the sum of its parts. But this future is not guaranteed. It requires choice. Your choice." Roger watched in amazement as Zara addressed each faction in turn. To the Zarkonian emissaries, she offered insights into her unique physiology, proposing a collaborative research initiative that would benefit all parties. To Ambassador Sorak, she spoke of Vulcan prophecies and the logical advantages of interspecies cooperation. To Commander Stone, she outlined the diplomatic and scientific possibilities that lay before them. As Zara spoke, Roger felt her telepathic abilities strengthen. A psychic network began to form, allowing the representatives to experience each other's perspectives firsthand. He saw hardened military commanders flinch with the remembered pain of civilian casualties, watched as logical Vulcans grappled with the intensity of human emotion, observed as alien minds expanded to accommodate new ways of thinking. Outside the facility, ships from dozens of species began to land, their crews drawn by the unprecedented gathering. What had begun as a confrontation was rapidly evolving into an impromptu galactic summit. Mina squeezed Roger's hand, her eyes shining with a mixture of pride and disbelief. "Our daughter," she whispered. "Look at what she's doing." As the summit continued, Zara proposed the creation of a new interstellar alliance, with Earth as a key member. Her ability to understand and communicate the needs of each species proved instrumental in drafting the initial framework for this ambitious project. However, not all parties were fully convinced. Roger sensed a ripple of discord from a group of human politicians viewing the proceedings via secure transmission. Their minds radiated concern about potential threats to human autonomy. Similarly, some members of the alien fleet worried about the balance of power shifting too quickly. Zara, attuned to the growing tension, turned to Roger and Mina. In her eyes, they saw the weight of worlds resting on her young shoulders. Despite her rapid growth and extraordinary abilities, she was still their child, still in need of their guidance and support. As debates intensified and the fate of the nascent Galactic Alliance hung in the balance, Roger and Mina stepped forward to stand beside their daughter. Together, they faced the assembled representatives of countless worlds, ready to navigate the complex web of interspecies politics and prove that their unprecedented union could indeed be the key to a more harmonious future for all sentient beings. The next few hours would determine the course of galactic history. As Zara prepared to address the concerns of the skeptics, Roger reached out with his empathic senses, feeling the swirling mix of hope, fear, and possibility that filled the chamber. Whatever the outcome, he knew that nothing would ever be the same again. As the debates intensified and the fate of the nascent Galactic Alliance hung in the balance, Zara's eyes flickered with sudden inspiration. She turned to her parents, a silent understanding passing between them. "I have an idea," Zara announced, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Words alone cannot bridge the divides between us, but there is a way for all of us to truly understand one another." Roger felt a surge of energy from his daughter, her power radiating outward. He realized what she intended to do just moments before it happened. "A galaxy-wide mind link," Zara explained, her form shimmering with ethereal light. "A temporary connection between all present species. Through this, we can share our perspectives, our emotions, our very essence." Before anyone could object, Zara closed her eyes and extended her arms. A wave of psychic energy pulsed through the room, touching the minds of every being present. It expanded further, reaching the ships in orbit and beyond, encompassing representatives from every world involved in the summit. Roger gasped as his consciousness expanded. He felt the logical precision of Vulcan minds, the fierce pride of Zarkonian warriors, the curiosity of countless alien species he couldn't even name. Memories and emotions flooded through him. The joy of scientific discovery, the anguish of interstellar conflict, the wonder of first contact. Around the chamber, the effect was immediate and profound. Commander Stone stumbled, his eyes wide as he experienced firsthand the devastation wrought by Earth's military actions. Ambassador Sorak's usually stoic features contorted with a mix of fascination and discomfort as he grappled with the intensity of human emotions. The Zarkonian emissaries, their energy forms fluctuating wildly, projected images of their homeworld, a place of breathtaking beauty and complexity that defied human understanding. Through the link, they shared their deep-seated fears of extinction, the driving force behind their aggressive expansion. Politicians viewing the proceedings remotely found their concerns about human autonomy dwarfed by the vastness of galactic cultures. The sheer diversity of life and thought overwhelmed their parochial views, replacing fear with awe. As the mind link faded, a hush fell over the chamber. Beings of all species looked at one another with new eyes, the shared experience having shattered preconceptions and prejudices. Zara, her form now stabilizing into a balanced blend of her human and Vulcan heritage, stepped forward. "This is who we are," she said softly. "All of us together. Our differences are our strength. Our unity is our future." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of agreement. Species that had been on the brink of war mere hours ago now clamored to sign the Alliance Charter. Earth was unanimously welcomed as a key member, with Roger and Mina nominated as humanity's primary representatives. As the formalities of establishing the new Galactic Alliance began, Roger noticed Zara swaying slightly. He rushed to her side, supporting her as she smiled weakly. "I'm all right," she assured him. "Just tired." It took a lot of energy. Mina joined them, her eyes shining with pride and concern. "You've done something incredible, sweetheart. Rest now. We'll handle things from here." As Zara was led away to recover, Roger and Mina found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of activity. Dr. Voss approached, her expression a mix of excitement and disbelief. "The Zarkonian Collective has offered to share their medical technology with us," she reported. "This could revolutionize healthcare across all Alliance worlds." Before Roger could respond, Ambassador Sorak intervened. "Earth's cultural archives would be a logical exchange," he suggested. "Vulcan has long been fascinated by human art and literature. I believe other species would find equal value in such an offering." The next few days passed in a blur of negotiations, cultural exchanges, and technological marvels. The Stellar Unity facility, once a hidden research base, was rapidly transforming into the headquarters for the new Galactic Alliance. Plans were drawn up for a massive space station in Earth's orbit, designed to house diplomatic missions from hundreds of worlds. Roger and Mina worked tirelessly alongside the recovering Zara, their unique family unit becoming a symbol of hope and unity across the cosmos. Their initial encounter, once a potential scandal, was now celebrated as the catalyst for a new era of peace. As construction began on the new Alliance headquarters, Roger stood with Mina on a newly installed observation deck. They watched shuttles from dozens of worlds coming and going, each carrying diplomats, scientists, and cultural attachés eager to contribute to the fledgling alliance. "Did you ever imagine this?" Mina asked, squeezing his hand. "When we first met, could you have dreamed of all that would follow?" Roger shook his head, still amazed by the turn of events. "Never in a million years, but I wouldn't change a thing." As they gazed out at the stars, now filled with promise rather than threat, Roger felt a surge of optimism. The journey ahead would be challenging, filled with the complexities of interstellar diplomacy and the delicate balance of diverse cultures. But for the first time, he truly believed that a harmonious future was within reach. The breeding season that had once threatened to tear them apart had instead given birth to an era of unprecedented cooperation. As Roger and Mina turned to greet a newly arrived delegation, they knew that their work and their extraordinary family's legacy was only just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.